Good evening and welcome. I thought I would fire up the stream for the first time in a long time. I want to get this going again. And just kind of checking out the stream, testing OBS, all that stuff. Stuff is nowhere near set up the way I want it. But I just wanted to get live for a change. And we're going to start with a react to the Star Citizen Live from a couple days ago where they started showcasing the Anvil Odin. I really... You know, I've seen the same stuff that everybody's seen kind of come out about this, but like I haven't actually sat down and watched this video of it yet. So without much further, hit me up in chat if you got any questions or anything. We'll see what we do afterwards. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and fire up this video. There we go. Let's see what they have to say for themselves. And this $5,000 ship that you had to write an essay for.
Star Citizen Live DefenseCon Showcase Part 2, the Anvil Odin. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and joining us on the show this week are members of our Steam vehicle teams that were all involved in some way, shape, or form in the creation of the new battlecruiser that we've revealed just today, the Anvil Odin. Starting to my left, you see John Crew.
Hello.
Oh, there we go. Nope, that way. John Crew.
Man, they pulled everybody in for this.
Right, John Crew. That's Dan.
All right.
That's Chris.
Ew.
I don't know why you guys don't get first and last name. He just, in my head, he's always John Crew. We got Mattia. We got Mark. We got Ben.
Hello.
And now, finally, where he belongs, Alberto, tickling the ivories. All right. If you want the more involved
the best camera out of everybody,
check out last week's show, Part 1. It's where we did it. It was okay.
But they can't.
We're really sticking to that bit, huh?
There's not like a lot of Italian references,
Record
isn't there?
that bit. No, you can't. Well, we don't know where it cut off.
Oh, well, there we go then.
It's on Twitch. The whole thing's on Twitch, including 30 minutes where nobody could hear us and anything, because I thought it would be cool to look behind the scenes. We put a little note up there and everybody was just like, there's no audio. You try something.
You did write on the screen.
I know.
Yeah.
You try, but it just...
I know, mate.
That's right. So today we are discussing the last great concept ship of Star Citizen, the Anvil Odin battlecruiser. John,
will it be though? Will that be the last concept to come out? Because they've got a lot of concepts in the pipe right now. They've got some that are supposedly finally almost here. Raylan, I think, is supposed to be coming soon. Ironclad finally came out. That one's been waiting. That one's been waiting for a while. Liberator's been in the pipe for a long freaking time, and Banu Merchantman has been in the pipe even longer than that. I don't know. I could weirdly see them getting the Odin out before the Banu Merchantman, honestly. Let's see.
introduce us. What the heck is a battlecruiser?
So, if we're using naval parlance, a battlecruiser is a ship that has the weaponry of a battleship in a cruiser's frame, hence the name. So it has lots of punch, very close to doing glass cannon and punch above weight jokes, but I'm not going to do that, and the speed of a cruiser. So sort of the best of both worlds in one big package.
Okay. And is this is obviously a solo ship?
Yep, completely solo run. I mean, you can fly any ship with one person. It's just...
Yeah, but can you do anything with this?
You can fly around. You have some weaponry with it, but really this is you and a lot of other people to make use of it.
Who wants to do the rundown of the weaponry?
Mark.
Mark? You got your cheat sheet?
No, hang on. No. We've got a cheat sheet because I think the only person who would be able to memorise it off the top of their head is Lee, and Lee's currently not in the country. Otherwise, he would be here and doing this.
And at least they're saying that it's supposed to take a lot of people, and it's so hard to think ahead about what that actually means right now because they've generated this problem where they've painted themselves into a corner with solo ships like the Idris, and now we've got the Tiburon, which is another interesting mess. But I don't know. The fact that this has been a problem for so long and has been unaddressed for so long, and they're just sitting there making jokes about that, it just doesn't, I don't know, kind of rubs me the wrong way. But yeah, I'm not going to take it too seriously. At least they walked it back and said it'll actually take crew.
So, starting from the top, we have two size 12 triple ballistic cannons that are man turrets.
And for
Well,
reference,
okay.
what's the biggest gun on the Javelin?
It is 9s on the big remote turrets at the back.
And the railgun on the Idris is a 10.
10.
Yeah, so these are triple size 12s here.
Is there 2 of these?
Yeah.
One on the top and one on the bottom.
Well, there's 2 triples.
Oh,
There's 2 triples.
So the Bengal, the large lower turret on the Bengal that people would have seen in the squadron videos, that's size 12. So that's
this
got
raises
4.
an interesting question, and I just want to put this up for kind of a thought experiment. We're going to go over to SP Viewer real quick, and I just want to kind of get a sense of like what is the scale they're talking about here, because we know what the scale of a size 10 weapon is. We've got a size 10 beam. We've got 2 size 10 beams now. We've got a size 10 railgun. We've got size 9 and size 10 torpedoes and size 12 torpedoes. So kind of what I want to do is I want to look at a comparison of what is the scale of these current things? Because they can throw out terms like size 10, size 12, whatever, but like, what does it actually mean? And what is it likely to mean? And I hate getting too speculative about this, but I feel like this is worth looking at. Where are the... Oh, there we go, missiles. Okay. So if I were to go in here on SP Viewer, I'm going to have to do something with OBS on this. I'll check that in a second. So I just want to look at, if we're going to compare, let's say size 10, and just look in general at what a size 10 is doing. Let's grab Notepad here. Okay, I need to just make this screen straight up display, apparently. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Fix it on the fly. We don't fix it in post, we fix it on the fly. Display capture, we're just going to do... We're going to add existing display capture 1. Cool. And we're just going to... down. We're going to get rid of that entirely. That thing was just trash. And we're going to get this where it belongs. Okay. Gotta drag it down to the bottom of the list. A little bit at a time. Come on. Come on. Get down there. All right. So just for reference, we're going to say we've got size 10 torpedoes, and they're running between 630k and 805k damage. So let's start with that. This is going from 10 to 12. Let's look at the size... Oh, wait, no, sorry, that's 10 missiles. So let's look at the size 12s. These are... I mean, that's not even that big of a jump. That's 910 to 1.15 mil. That's size 10. Size 12. Now, granted, I'm sure missiles are going to scale differently and all, but... Okay, so that's actually 910k to 150k. All right. And then if we were to go back to size 9, this is just, again, we're going to get some numbers here. 9, you go in and drop by like half. So this is really all over the place if just looking in terms of missiles. Size 9, we're going to say 300k to 560k of the... Oh, that's a G torpedo. That doesn't really count. So let's not include the Gs. Let's just look at the ones that are not designed to launch from ground vehicles, and we're going to say 300 to 400k on a size 9 torpedo. So you go through upward end of about 400k for size 9, upward end of 800k for size 10. So you've got a double leap right there. There is no size 11 that I'm aware of. Nope, there's not. And then 12 is like, it's like just a little buff on top of the 10. It goes just about 100k over its minimum goes about 100k over its maximum. So, oh, what's up, Heim? Yeah, I get that a lot, honestly. How you doing? Hope you're doing well too. Yeah, so this is kind of the scale of damage just looking at torpedoes. If we were to look at hardpoint weapons, let's take Okay, so we've got a size 12 example, the M9A cannon. I forgot about these, actually. What is this actually from? Is this from something? Or is this just, like, bullshit sitting in here? Oh, 200,000 alpha? That's almost certainly bullshit. It has to be. Anyway, we'll work with the 10s, because that's kind of a known value. So, a size 10, this is a single-shot weapon. You charge it up. The minimum is going to be... Wait, is that the minimum? That's the maximum. That ends up being the maximum. So your maximum size 10 gun ends up being about 288k on a single hit. And we'll say that can probably... It's probably going to be higher than what a standard just, single shot, instant fire ballistic weapon would be at that size. But, so we'll take that with a grain of salt. Let's look at size 9. These I know are the ones, the M9 cannons, I believe, if I'm correct, these are the ones that are on the nose of the Idris in the correct package. And so we're looking at 4670 alpha at size 9. So a size 9 cannon, we're going to say. And we're going to differentiate these railgun just to try and get an idea. Try and make some sense of this. This is going to be 4670 alpha. So per hit, 4670. That's like a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what you get out of a size 10. So once again, it's not in lockstep or anything. It's not by the same degree, but you do see a big jump up from size 9 and 10 in missiles and size 9 and 10 to, regular guns. We don't have any other 9 examples, so that's kind of hard to even look at. We can go back down and look at the Medusa cannon, though. And you get 5,400 on those. So, granted, those are a bespoke weapon. We're gonna differentiate this. That's 5,400 alpha on that. So there's already kind of some weird fuckery going around it. You can tell as we've gone up in size with these weapons, like we're kind of going into imagination land. Like nothing is really in place as far as what this is going to be. So this is probably kind of silly trying to even make sense of it, but we're going to try. So if we go back here, we're going to go down another size 7 cannon. We get to 4,000 alpha. So we'll give that one a spot here as well. This is Conqueror. You know what? I don't think that 9 cannon actually exists. I don't think that is the one that's on the Idris. I think they put these M9As. Yeah, it's the M9A size 7. And so this alpha is actually 6750. So we need to get rid of this. This one is not real. There is nil size 9 here. The size 7, if we're doing Conqueror, that's going to be 4,000 alpha. And if we do M9A, that's going to be 6750. So we've already got kind of a weird spread right here that the next size up, the size 8 cannon, the Medusa, is in the middle of, granted being ballistic. And it's probably not even worth going down to size 6 because we're trying to speculate as to what the top hitters are going to be like. So I don't know. There's a couple ways we can go here. Like if it follows the pattern of these, then basically you're going to have a size 12 weapon that's just kind of a single step up from your 10s. So you would have your size 10 railgun that's, maxes out at 288k. Let's say, I tell you what, here's where we can get a comparison. Let's compare a railgun. There's a railgun somewhere in the size 1 through 3, right? I think it's technically listed as a ballistic cannon, but it actually functions like a railgun. And I'm trying to remember which one it was now. Yeah, it was the mass driver cannons. Right. So if we look at the mass driver cannons and we look at how they behave, Strife and Sledge. Okay. All right. So these are basically the same thing. So they have a higher alpha than the strongest single shot cannon in the class there. 525 over 303. So we're just, again, spitballing in our little notepad here. At size 2, railgun is going to have 525. Cannon's going to have 303. Let's see if that's still proportioned right at size 1 and 3. At 1 and 3, you've got 225 and 202. Oh, interesting. Interesting pattern there. And then at size 3, we're going to have 1125, 455. All right. So these, that's really interesting there too, because this is basically, this represents a big step up when you get to size 3. This is like just over double. It's like 2.5 times what the cannon outputs for that railgun at size 3. These are just a step up by about, well, this one's the pittance. Like size 1 just doesn't really matter anyway. But this one is just like a couple hundred points. So I don't know. That's a hard pattern to draw there, because if we're going to say size 10 railgun, we go back and look at the 288K that it does. We know it's going to be head and shoulders over what a cannon would do, but like by how much? Is it going to be the case where you've got like size 3 where he goes up and it's, 3 times what that damage is? Or is it just going to be a little bit of a buff on top like we see with the gap between the size 9 and the size 10? I don't know. Just thought experiment. I wanted to bring that up and look at it. Let's get back to them.
Okay.
We have 3 single size 10 man turrets. So that is, instead of having dual mounts, it's a single mount. We have 8, once again, size 10 single ballistic cannon remote turrets. We then have 8. I know, it's still a lot to get through. We have 8 size 8 double cannons that are manned. And then there is 2 quadruple laser cannons that are also piloted.
And those are size 8. 2 quadruple size 8.
Okay, so our size 8s, roughly, we can probably estimate those somewhere in that 4,000 to 6,000 damage range each. So that's, as a quad turret, that's like holy power creep, dude. Holy shit. Like that's a lot of damage output. If whatever these are firing can actually land on a target, that's going to be pretty big. And we're looking at the size 10 railgun, and we're going to say this is our speculative size 10 weapon of X type. We're going to say that could be anywhere from 1/3 of the damage of that 288. So we could be down as low as, maybe 90k. But it could also be as close as, 200k per hit. So that's our size 10 weapons. Those are the single weapon turrets that they're talking about there. Estimate somewhere between 90 and 200k a hit alpha. And I would have to assume it's going to be very slow rate of fire. Looking back, like if we look at the Medusa's rate of fire is only 50 RPM, but that still feels fast when you get into weapons that quick or that large. But anyway, let's let them finish their laundry list of fucking power creep here.
Cannons that are manned.
So essentially it's a size 32.
No. It's just, think of it more like the one on the bottom of the Bengal, where it's multiple barrels. It's worth noting that which is also imaginary for this ship, because
so we have no firmer reference for
size
this.
And scale and complexity of just everything to do with it. All of the weapons are specific. They're not just using our generic PU weapons. All of them are built in and designed to specifically work with each of the turrets. Because you can't just go down to your local shop and pick up a size 12.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't? Oh, no.
Go to a local shop and pick up an Odin.
I mean,
you can go to the shop and pick up a size 6. That hasn't had any place for a while.
Every ship that we make available through Pledge will be attainable in the game. But there's this long-standing rule that Chris and Rich have had. It's like you can't just go down to a Hertz rent-a-car and rent a battleship. You're not going to get an Idris or a Javelin or whatever. Walking into Cousin Crows. It's like this. So when this does make it into the game, it's like this. We imagine the amount of effort involved in getting this thing in will be quite fierce.
Yeah.
You missed one.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah, you missed the other one, didn't you?
You missed
Next line.
what's on the front of it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, we did say it had some pilot weapons. It has a beam weapon of, yes, size. It is the entire front of the ship.
Indeterminable.
It's a beam weapon with 12 barrels. It's 6 on each side.
Yeah, but it does combine to one giant beam, but it's a giant beam on a capital ship that's... It's a beam on a capital ship of a scale... Well, the size of the ship, as a just random jump point, is over 750 meters, and then we just have a giant beam that is the front of the ship. So...
Sick.
Okay, so they're not even trying to classify
I
that
mean,
one.
we can give it a size, but
All right.
fine. I'll also cover it has a significant suite of PDTs, flak, and other automated defense systems. There is still hot debate about the specific number of this. It's either going to be 42 plus 1 or 43. We had an
Over the chat, I'm trying to figure
problem
out why
when
it's
we were
not showing up
actually
on the
doing
stream here.
The PDT and flak distribution across the ship.
Yeah, if I pop out
Because
chat,
they
will
were
that work?
so small, you couldn't
This might
actually
work.
see them. So what we ended up having to do was make clustered banks of them, just so that they were actually readable on the exterior. And
wasn't what I was
there's
going
just
for.
So
I'm
many
sure there's a
it
better way to
meant
do
that You
this.
had nice little defensive clusters, so they could cover each other as well quite nicely.
And why do you need them to be readable on the exterior?
Well, the reason we need them
Might
to
have to figure
read
that
on
out.
is because part of the gameplay of tackling a ship of this size, it's going to be peeling back the layers of defense.
What's up,
You're
Gary?
not just going to rock up with a couple of torpedoes.
exactly.
shooting
Perfect ship
jobs
for
of
box
gun. You're going
missions.
to have to take out the subcomponents, take out the shield emitters, take out the PDCs and defense.
This is what they keep saying though. That's what we were supposed to be doing with the Polaris. That's what we're supposed to be doing with the Idris. Like, okay, where is it? Engineering was supposed to fix it. Didn't fix it. It started out, we got fires, we got fuses, we got all that stuff, and then they dialed all that stuff back to where it basically wasn't relevant. Armor was supposed to fix it, and then they started dialing that back. Well, they dialed it both directions. They dialed it in 2 different directions that weren't really great. One, they ended up reducing the armor values a lot, which I don't know what they were trying to accomplish with that, but then they implemented this like alpha gate to it, to where you can't even damage certain levels of armor unless the weapon puts out a certain amount of alpha, which that didn't restrict certain sizes or roles from being able to do damage to certain classes of ships. All that did was whittle down the number of weapons that you had available at each size to a cannon that happens to have high alpha because it happens to game that particular metric. I don't know. That's in a bad spot. We're trying to put together some better focused feedback on that. Because like it feels bad. Everybody knows it feels bad. Everybody knows it's fucked. We just need a good, like, creative and constructive way to, like, address it. So we're working on some ideas, but oh my god, it's not in a great place, and it is antithetical to what this guy's talking about. What they say that they're chasing, they're not getting there with the changes that they're making at the moment. I love this screen cap. Like, I feel like this needs to be saved. We're going to just... I don't know what I'm going to use this for yet, but... Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to use this for yet, but I love that picture. So we're going to hang on to that for later. All right, continuing on.
Or you can even begin dreaming trying to either board it or disable it.
Yeah.
So if we just had the tiny little dots distributed everywhere, people would struggle to actually be able to engage with that gameplay. And we want people to visually know,
there's
like
my chat.
without owning the ship, where to target.
For as powerful
we
as
go.
this thing is going to be.
It's still kill.
Chat still doesn't look right on
still
screen,
has
but
to be
I'm gonna
killable.
find a way
It
to
still
fix
has
that.
to be, assaultable. It's going to end up
What I
being
added
its
on
own
there to not do
TSG
was
just
advertised.
attacking one of these. All right. So
We're not done with the weapon.
Yeah, there's one more here at the bottom.
what?
Which one did I miss?
You're missing the torps.
all the
Oh,
torpedoes.
I was talking, we said guns, not torpedoes.
I said weapons.
Fine. It has 20 size 12 torpedo launch tubes.
That can hold approximately. Remember, this is a concept.
Yeah. 40 in, so 40 queued, ready to go, 20 that actual tubes, but then you can obviously manually stock them as well. So
Now, if you have to manually stock those, that's cool. that's kind of, I don't know, that's something that I feel like could have really enhanced the gameplay on the Perseus and the Polaris quite a bit. Like if you had to manually reload every torpedo that you were going to fire, I think that could have done so much for those ships, especially in the heyday when like when the Polaris first came out, and if you weren't playing back then, you might not have seen it, but like Polaris gameplay at the start was dueling for position with another Polaris and then trying to dumbfire torpedoes at like point blank range. And then it was a matter of like, you have one person that's down there and like their only job is to press the fire button. If they had to reload the torpedo tubes every one of those shots, like that kind of gameplay actually would have been pretty cool. And I wouldn't mind seeing that, even if you had like a short magazine for something like the Perseus where you can fire a few torpedoes at once and then have to reload, that would be fine. But like with the autoloaders, it's a little too much. I feel like the crew ought to be more involved than they are.
It's however many you could fit in your hold, theoretically.
And how big is the hold, John Crew?
It's 6,000 SCU in capacity, so it's
I think that's just a board number as well at this point.
it's a whole sea and a half of cargo inside it.
So you'll be
How
able
many
to stock.
torpedoes is that, Jared?
I mean, it's all such imagination
do the
land.
math.
Like
No.
Please don't.
they've got an artist
just
sketch
wanted
to
to
go
chat
off
into
of
that
right
for
now, and they're throwing random
right.
numbers to it.
So Alberto's going to cue up some of the imagery here that went out with the promotion. Again, I encourage you to check out all of the imagery and all the specific stats and everything on the dedicated webpage that went live at the same time as this video. It's going to be much higher res and whatnot than we're going to look here. But let's start with the first image that
Go ahead and
that
open
we
that page
revealed
while
on
I got it,
social
just so I got
media
it.
earlier last week, or I guess it's like 2 weeks at the time that we showed this.
We'll scroll down that
So
a little
yeah,
bit in a
so
moment,
here's
too.
the first image that we released of the Odin about 2 weeks ago now, a week before DefenseCon at this point. And everybody was like, where's the weapons? Where's the weapons? We've noticed this recently. There seems to be a trend towards retractable weapons, hiding the weaponry. Am I imagining that, or is that something that's actually more common now?
Yeah, I guess a few of the more recent combat ships have had that sort of visual cue in them. I don't think it's something that we're going to do for all ships. It's not like a shift in kind of mentality or anything. It's just a couple of the new ships kind of all felt like it was the right decision to make. I think with the Odin particularly, there was a lot of different reference of kind of different contemporary ships that people are familiar with. And one of the things we kind of wanted to do early on was kind of just have things retracted and tucked away.
So I like that they're doing that, but correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. If I remember correctly, back in the early iterations of Star Citizen, we're talking like 3.0 and before, if I recall correctly, and this is just hearsay that I remember picking up when I first started playing, at the start, you could only have one object on a ship animated at a time. Is that right? It was like you could only have one door opening or closing at a time. You could only have like one lift going or one ramp going at a time. I think there was like a limit to what could actually be animated on the ship. And they overcame that at a certain point. And now that they've got that tool set, now they can actually design ships that have multiple pieces that function and move at once, and you can have retractable weapons and all that. So that might have been like a technical limitation at one point, and so all of the older ships that came out before didn't really have that going for them, and now it's a design option that they've got finally.
Pretty bold move, because it's a lot more
That's
work.
my headcanon
to
I'm
make
running
all
with.
these retractable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no ifs or buts.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
it's just such a cool moment. Like it is a moment in itself when they actually deploy and show the fangs or teeth as the ship are, as it were.
And we don't have an Anvil ship anywhere near this size as like the kicking off point. So it was an opportunity for like, what is Big Anvil?
Yeah.
And sort
What
of
is Anvil today?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as well is you've there's two very clear different visual states when it's retracted and then when it means business. And obviously when it's retracted, you are limiting your defensive capabilities, but that's where things like the automated turrets come in.
Actually, I'm kind of curious about that. I want to pull up the Odin fact sheet here. So this, I'm assuming this central image that they've got here is everything retracted. Looks very sleek. and then as the stuff comes out, this is kind of what they're showcasing here. Then the teeth come out. It does visually look very distinct, and I think that is cool. Like I mean, I try not to let myself get too excited over little things like aesthetics and whatnot, but like I have to admit that kind of, to see all of that open up all at once along the length of this ship, I think that would kind of be a holy shit moment. Oh, here we go. That's an even better one. This is even better. Look at it right here. Yeah, holy shit. That actually, that has the potential to be pretty sick. Okay.
And then when it's time to party, that's when everything comes out, and yeah, and yeah,
Time
it
to
should be
party.
this size. We
Little
could
pop streamers come out.
wave it away with lots of it makes it more efficient. Everything's tucked away. It makes it kind of a little bit I say more efficient to fly, but really it was a visual decision that we made early on with the vehicle when we started kind of having those very early conversations as to what we wanted the kind of like the core visuals to be. That was one of them.
This is a lovely image. This is one of one
I almost used that on the thumbnail. I couldn't find the high resolution version of it. I should have watched this earlier and just screen cap that. That is beautiful.
Who's catharsis? Alberto.
Mine.
And what are you trying to get out? What are you trying to find in your catharsis?
No, just to describe a moment of power.
Okay.
I remember when I first saw that picture, like in a meeting, I went straight to Alberto's desk and I was like, can I have that like right now? And it's now my desktop background, because I was like, it's just so sick. I remember when you first showed it me, I came over to your desk and there was, I think you talked about it from like how it was like kind of hiding in the asteroid belt and then it would like pop out. And we talked a little bit about, in the Arctic, you see these really large ships that are like icebreaker ships.
I love the concept of that, but we all know how that would work in the yellow belt right now. Everything's static. No, it's just 3 different bounces, a couple 360s, 720s, purple. Gone. That's how it plays in current day Star Citizen.
Yeah, and it's just insane. That's a great picture for it.
And I think that's one of the kind of core things with the concept art as a whole is there's obviously things that we want to show to kind of really show the details of the ship and like what that ship's functionality and loadout and everything else is. But then there's also pieces that we want to do that just set the scene and set the atmosphere and give an idea of the dream of what we're trying to achieve. So yeah, some of these pieces might be more art pieces than, I remember me and you had a big conversation about this and it was one of the, it was, I'm not going to say it was a heated conversation because it wasn't, but it was a, there's things that we wanted to show that really put this in our universe, and then there's things that we wanted to show that were kind of like a little love letter to concept vehicles as a whole, because this being
The whole game is a love letter to concept vehicles as a whole. This whole game is a concept vehicle. Please continue.
Almost the end of an era with concept vehicles. A lot of work went into it, and from a kind of concept artist point of view, delivering those really cinematic shots at the end of a long period of time working on it is kind of part of the payoff.
Yeah, there's a misconception, I think, that in these concept promotions that these images are actually created by the marketing department. They're actually not. They're created by Alberto and the team that's making the ship. It's like that. So that's what you're referring to. It's explorations by the artists who are designing the ship itself to evoke a feeling and evoke a sense and try to communicate what
And definitely not led or influenced whatsoever by any marketing team that is trying to push any particular buttons. Not at all. No.
Their feelings and sense of the ship. Yeah. And yes, they it wasn't heated. It was a good, solid conversation. Yeah. And I was just like, if it hits that many rocks, it's going to explode.
Right?
And I'm like, yeah, it looks really cool. If
all right,
it wasn't that many rocks, it's going to explode, Ben. Yeah. But we
explode, or it's going to get a purple.
Some cool stuff. This next image is really cool. And this is Levski, right?
Yeah, this is
12-day claim time.
Levski.
We can only
was
hope.
The best way to communicate
the scale of the thing, as the diameter of the hull, I think, is 5 kilometers. The length of this ship is 150 meters.
Now, that's
so,
interesting if they actually measured that
It gives
out.
a better idea of what you could see and where, when these will come out.
We
I
thought there
feel
was
like
such
I've
a
seen
big hole
smaller
in the
ships
middle.
look bigger coming through that.
And then we put
Don't
an
know
Odin
how
in there.
low.
It's like,
No, it is still a big haul. Odin's just a very big ship.
Part of me
I think
wants
to build on
go
what
out
you
there and
said
look at that
about
and
like
see
the key art being
what that
like,
actually,
how
the size
it's
actually looks
almost
like.
a love letter in some ways to all the insane work that we've seen. You know, from like an artist perspective, and you know, the team's grown so much over the last few years. It's these pieces of concept key art that appear on Google Images, on the YouTube videos where the backers are talking about how excited they are. And even when internally you're about to start the project and you get presented with, this is the ship you're going to be making, and you know that's going to be your world for 5 months, that's what they're for, right? No,
Just
not
5
that,
months?
but like, you know, yeah, I was thinking about like specific ships in the past, like the Meteor, for example, in front of you. But the, you know, for whatever, it could be months, and in the large ships cases, like
Just a
even
few months,
longer.
guys. Band of
The-
Merchantmen is 6 months away.
Those moments are what like motivates you as a game developer, and it's what, like, you know, when you go into that first call with Ben and John, and they're like, okay, here's the kickoff for this. This is what it's all about, and you see the pictures, and you're like, yo, we're gonna make that.
Yeah.
And it's
I have this dreadful feeling for everybody that's backed the Band of Merchantmen over the years. Like, by the time that comes out, probably all this other stuff is going to be done. It's probably going to be like the last concept that ever gets released, and it's going to be outclassed so far by so many other things. I don't want to speak it into existence or anything, but like, I got this nagging feeling about that cursed ship.
like
It's
so
also
exciting.
about setting the vision. So like obviously the concept doesn't cover every single area, but it gives everyone an idea of what the vision is for this vehicle. So when you're making that decision about what do we do with this space,
Yeah,
what do we do with this bulkhead, we know what the intention was. So sure, they
do you
may
mean,
not
what do
be
you do with it?
realistic about everything that will happen in our engine, but it gets the vision and the narrative of what we want the vehicle,
tone.
the identity.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you what the identity is. The identity is big fucking laser. And like, not to jump too far ahead, I'm sure they get into it a little bit, but like, I feel like this ship, if we were to compare this to, looking at the size of this, what did they say was 750, 800 meters? If we go back and we compare that to our ship list here, and let's just say length, I'm going to sort it this way. Idris, a third or less the length of whatever this thing is going to be. And we look at the pitch yaw roll rate on this. Let's say that we were to almost proportionally do that. Maybe not proportionally. Let's just be generous and say half. Get 3.5 degrees pitch rotation, yaw rotation. That's not going to be fighting anything but another Odin at long range. Even Idris's are going to be able to move probably quick enough to get around this thing and raid it. And that kind of, you've got all the other turrets and stuff for that, granted, I guess, like if they come into range, like those turrets are going to hammer anything. But I think it kind of speaks to what the ultimate purpose of this is going to be. This is going to be something to take down emplacements. This is going to be to take down stations. And I don't think this is going to be a lot of Odins fighting each other in most cases. Could be wrong. It could end up being, you know, Dreadnought, Titan, you know, Eve style capital fights. I don't know how realistic that is. I feel like this is just something you bring in after the fight to finish off a station. But that's distant speculation. I digress. I try not to do that.
It's nice.
But that's
It's
certainly
been
the
so long
identity
since
of the
we've
ship
done
is
a
slow and
concept
big laser.
only promotion. We didn't do any last year at all. This is the only one we're doing this year, and then never again. So it's you know,
I am
it's-
kind of impressed by that, honestly.
I like that we've finally be able to talk. You know, concepts art are these love letters from the people who are making the ship to the thing, and I've always liked that about it because we do some tremendous marketing art. Like I'm gonna put our marketing art team up against any marketing art team in the world.
And so right after he's saying it's not marketing, he says it's the marketing art team. Yeah, he said the quiet part out loud. All right, so yeah, but there it was. And I do have to say I'm impressed with that though. Like they did go an entire year with no concept sales. Like that's something. That was a step in the right direction. I don't know. And then they and then they made up for it with this one that you had to write an essay for and cost $5,000 a piece. I don't know. I guess if they had to do a last one, this was the way to close it out.
But the nice thing about the concept art, though,
I can't hate on it too much.
That's not marketing. That is the people here making the ship and communicating from their perspectives.
With like the production ships, we get that from the marketing team at the end of that stage, if you know what I mean. And so we get these amazing trailers that come back, and they're almost like, that's one of my favorite parts, right, is like handing the ship over, and we sometimes push it quite close to the wire, and we're like, here you go, sorry it's a bit late, good luck, and then we get it back, and it's like, oh yeah, like your mind gets blown. And that's really what we're trying to achieve here for our production team.
You already know the Odin trailer when the time comes, when that thing's flight ready, the Odin trailer is going to destroy everything.
Just literally, or
we're going to upload it, and it's going to nuke the entire playlist on YouTube.
It's just one.
This is it. This is it. Kat and her team do these wonderful things every once in a while where they go through the events of some of the previous trailers. Like the Odin is so big.
Yep.
Like I want to see if I can convince her. Let's go back through every ship trailer, just like the Odin was always there in the background, constantly going through.
It's like, oh no, it was that wall that we were still.
Yeah, do you know that white background? No, that was just one of the bulkheads.
Yep. All right. So how much? Any more images to look at this point?
Oh, a bunch.
Did we mention it can carry other ships inside?
Oh, there we go.
No.
Yeah. So folks have speculated on the bays to the side. Yes, these are.
So I wonder if that goes all the way through the center or not.
6 small, 2 metric small hangars, and 1 medium hangar, and that's to the actual metric ones as well. So it's not like the pads are designed for specific vehicles. It's anything that's designated for that metric they can fit on.
Because people had seen the 3 side doors,
right?
So like, oh, that's going to have some hangars, but what they won't have seen is the larger.
We'll have seen now.
Hangar.
We'll get to the larger hangar inside, but yes, 6 side hangars, 3 on each side.
Okay, yeah, we'll wait and see that then.
Big enough to Hornets and stuff. Obviously.
Oh, easily.
That looks essentially like, I mean, if you put all 3 of those together and they're open up, like that basically looks like the length of the Idris hangar bay for all intents and purposes. And then so you got 1 on each side of the ship. That's kind of cool. I'm curious about the other one they're talking about though.
Easily.
Cutlasses.
I think let's count as small.
I'm tight. You'll be able to fit cutlasses in.
I'm not able to get my help.
Okay. And of course, that's a concept size, and we all know what happens when a concept goes to final art.
Especially in the UK.
I don't know if this gets any bigger.
What happens to it?
This gets any bigger.
And I think it has been like quite interesting to see, because that early image and the hologram that's been Bavaria 18, people have been able to kind of make assumptions from that, but I've seen so many questions about how do the hangars work, what they're going to do, and someone's like, has it got fly-through hangars? And I'm sat there like, can't say anything, but this is getting me hyped.
So 6 ship hangars, 3 on each side, clearly with the ship repair, refuel, rearming, so like that. What else we got looking at here?
Capabilities of the vertical launch torpedoes.
Okay, so these are the.
And we saw those
tubes.
with the those are actually really freaking cool. We saw those with the Ironclad that came out last week. That's actually kind of neat. And I'm sure that like the groundwork for that was laid a long time ago, because if you look back at like the Firebird, well, even the Connie as well. The Connie basically like launches them up at an angle, and then they curve down and start tracking. The Firebird does the opposite. It launches them down at like a 45-degree angle underneath you. So I guess there's precedent for you be able to launch missiles just about any direction, but I don't know. It's something about a straight up vertical launch tube on those. That's honestly pretty cool.
That you mentioned here.
These are the 20 tubes just in front of the conning tower.
Okay.
While you can have a better illustration and understanding of the front laser.
It's a front laser, and that's what we're talking about. The
Very much got an
12
unlock the
emitters on
nukes
front.
vibe.
6 on each side. You just.
Very space battle.
Have you shown this to Mike Snowden yet?
Yeah. Have we? I don't know.
That's the one I snagged for the thumbnail.
So this may be the first time Mike Snowden's seeing such a thing.
We're going to blow every budget.
No, we would have done it in the reviews. It's fine.
Okay. What else we got?
Just an explanation of the position and capabilities of the lower hangar, of the medium hangar is quite big. We're talking about 68 meters for 100 for 44. relatively in X, Y, and Z, so quite massive.
The really cool thing about the hangar arrangement on this is they're sort of interconnected.
Okay.
So you can fly in the rear as that ship is flying out.
interesting.
Yeah, they're all part of the same environment, and
Are the hangars flying?
all right,
Like
all right.
The smaller ones, yeah.
Well, the whole thing is.
But the
Because
medium
the
ones.
medium-
Oh, there we
in the middle,
go. Okay,
and
so
then
you can
the-
actually fly all the way up to the top and
medium's in the middle, and then the
Crossover,
6
alright,
small
that's kinda
hangars
cool.
arranged 3 per side. But the whole thing is just open, and then at the back
that's some borderline Star Destroyer shit. Like it's not quite there. They just get close enough to kiss it a little bit, and then they have that drop down the big ramp in the rear. But like having that actually go up and have those spaces on the side, that's actually pretty sick. I wonder if this is supposed to be like part of the paint job, or if this is just what the interior is going to look like if they just decided on red. I feel like that's part of a paint job. Which you've seen that a little bit even on the Idris. Like if you look at the Idris paints, those actually change the color of the ramp and everything leading up into the back. So maybe they're going a little bit further with this.
of that, there's then all the cargo, as well as then the conveyor belt up for the torpedoes to get them into the actual torpedo control room.
That is a decent
so
amount of space,
kind of-
honestly.
Yeah, we spent quite a lot of time playing with ideas about how the hangar could look and how it could function. And one of the things that we kind of settled on and were really excited about was having, this big kind of open expanse where you could have your kind of ships primed, ready to launch in all the hangars, but then you had enough space around them to kind of do all the operations you needed. So if you had other ships in there that were landed that were getting repaired, or you had other ships in there that were getting kind of guns or loadouts changed, or your pilots ready, you had space to do all that. And we really wanted the idea to be that you could fly in through the rear of the ship, and if you're in a big combat situation and you're like, right, recall the fighters, they weren't all scrambling to get in these tiny little hangar doors. You could load them up in through the rear of the ship, kind of get them back into their ready positions and get out of there kind of quite quickly.
With definitely no accidents.
There's this room here.
So that, I know, although it looks like it's an entire
Jesus.
room, what you're actually seeing there is the walkway that
Hold
you saw
on.
at the top of the hangar.
What the fuck is this? Metro? Do they actually have like a whole railway going through the center of this ship? Hold on, let me see. Where's my freaking... Is there a magnifying glass here? Yeah. Oh my fucking god. Really? Okay, thanks. Alright, well...
Hangar.
Yeah, Metro, hold, upper deck, something or other. I don't know. Okay, now all I gotta do is figure out how to turn the fucking thing off. Wow, let's never use this again. That is awful. Are you shitting me, guys? There we go. Wow, never use Windows Magnifier again. That's insane. I gotta figure out how that actually works. All I wanted to do was zoom in on this one thing. So, anyway.
That's the sort of scale we're talking. And like I mentioned at the bottom of the hangar,
Holy
there's
shit, I'm a boomer.
There's basically a conveyor belt that connects to the torpedo control at the top. So behind what you're seeing in that image there is the cargo grid. And what you're seeing to the left there, closest to us, is an actual constantly rotating conveyor belt. So if you want to load torpedoes, you take them from the cargo grid, put them on there. They'll then make their way to the actual torpedo control room, where the tube bays actually are, for them to be taken off the bay.
Oh, interesting.
And then loaded into the tubes to be fired. So on either side, there's a constant
Seems
rotating thing. So
needlessly
if you need more
complicated.
torpedoes, you can just take them straight off the grid, straight onto there, and it goes up to then be manually loaded.
And we've mentioned this is a multi-crew
I feel
ship.
like we might have...
It's definitely a multi-crew ship. Like, if you want this thing to be efficient, then you will need.
Can you do this
That
by
is in the
yourself?
notes.
Yes, you'll get a good workout running around the ship.
Well, you'll get 20 shots out of the torpedo tubes,
Yeah.
and that's it, instead of
Oh, is that all?
as soon as it's ready to go again. Because at the end of the day, as long as there's someone there feeding
I'm glad that they're
can
making
just
it
keep going.
manually reloaded.
More
That goes back to exactly what I was saying earlier. Like after every shot, you ought to have someone involved to reload it. At least they're getting that part done. the conveyor belt thing, okay. Needlessly complicated, probably, but like, I'll take it if it means that at the top end of it, you actually have to manually reload the tubes one at a time. That's actually kind of cool.
Just sitting in a turret, although we do have a lot of turrets.
We have a lot of people just sitting in turrets.
But I
We have
remember
23.
well, me and Alberto were counting them before. We had to keep recounting to make sure we're getting which ones were right.
It turned out we're not good at math.
No, we're terrible at it. We're absolutely atrocious, and we made the damn thing. It was 15 manned.
Happens when you make up numbers.
Remote, and that's just turrets. Not to mention all
Bring
the other
Puller's
things people can do
50 extra
across the
torps.
ship.
But
You
those
don't
remote
know
turrets
anything
still
about
have to
that,
be
do you,
operated.
Kurt?
Yeah, they are remote turrets. There's an entire room dedicated to that.
Yeah. So what else we got to look at here?
So what you can see here.
That's
as
what the
well
cargo grid's
is
supposed to be
in
for.
Kind of like the roof of the hangars.
You wrote a sentence?
you've
What sentence did you write?
Basically,
I didn't see anything.
What we see is like the ATC effectively. You've got your control room.
I only
for
see where you said
the-
you wrote
the
one
hangars
sentence.
And just a great overview of like not the battle stations, but everything else.
It's managing the cargo, it's managing the hangars, it's managing the doors, it's making sure that, you can go into Bay 3, you can go into Bay 7 because there's no one in it. It's away from the battle of the main ship because that their war isn't what's going on outside, it's making sure what's going on inside the ship is working correctly.
That is very much the battle, isn't it? That is always very much the battle with this game. Is everything inside the ship working correctly? Glad we're on the same page, bud.
Go ahead and keep the images going. What else we got? You made a lot of images for this, Alberto. So
Is the cargo area?
This is the
DCO1. There's
cargo
that.
area that
I think
we
that's that
learned
arrow
was-
to that same little metro-looking thing.
6,000.
Plus 2,000.
Weird that they would call it
elevator.
metro, but
All right, so there's 6,000 on the hold, and then the elevator. If you want to leave cargo on the elevator, that's another
the jacket.
2,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's a
Yep, that's
elevator
my
that goes
patch.
down and up between the medium hangar, which is at the back of the medium hangar.
We have an image of that because right now you're telling me there's an elevator that holds as much cargo.
I did
as
up
the
a bunch of
hangar.
those Velcro patches for us, and I just got one like sewn straight on. I love it.
The elevator is
Looks
this
so
part
clean.
with the stripes.
So see the chevrons at the back? That's the elevator that goes up and down at the very back of the hangar.
Is that
It's
like
2,000.
red light at the top? Is that the ATC thing you were talking
Yes.
about?
That's the scale, right? We showed that side shot and it looked like it was an entire room. It's not an entire room. It's literally the catwalk that you're seeing on the left and right.
See, that's another question I have about this too. Like, what is their vision for this whole ATC thing? Like, they've got that up on the side on the Idris, overlooking the fighter bay there. What are they expecting people to do with this other than open and close those doors? I don't really understand where this is. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if they've speculated about any of this or if they've ever put anything on the roadmap for it, but like, what is that actually supposed to accomplish? Because once the doors are open, like a ship flies in, it's basically self-service now that they've got, services built into ships. So that's on the pilot. If anyone has to manually reload something, which doesn't seem to be a thing, it's being pulled from the cargo grid on the ship to do ammo resupply, countermeasures, hull repair, missile reloads, I think. Someone might have to correct me on that one. But like, do they actually have anything in mind for an ATC position? Because I don't know what you would do with that. I'm not really clear where that's supposed to be going.
When we went into this and when we got the initial brief, we were, it came out as we were doing an Anvil ship, and it's like, yeah, cool. And then we got the brief, and it's like, okay, this we can work with. And then, through each kind of point of decision we made, we were always looking at it like, this is our kind of like ultimate ship for this purpose. This is the for what I would class our kind of like end game.
Yeah.
And so we kind of, obviously we need to make it, obviously we need to deliver it. There's got to be compromises somewhere, but we did our best to kind of always kind of look at it and think, right, how do we make the best we can? And this is what we tried to do. And when we get into production, we get to see whether or not we can achieve it. But we put a lot of discussions, I think, and decisions into trying to get this thing to be like, really really something that we can be proud of.
And what else do we have to look at, Alberto?
Oh, there's plenty. We have all the interiors.
Oh, there we go.
We have
This is just a hanger.
Sorry.
We're
Go.
in the first room still.
So I saw this on the page, and they labeled a bunch of these zones.
Yeah.
And that actually that helps put it in perspective a little bit. Now you see the area back here that actually opens up and it goes into the main hangar, how it connects to the top hangar. That's really cool. So all these other little spaces that you see in there aren't actually doors that open on the side. They're just kind of like little, just, I guess, little closets, pretty much, you could store stuff in. That looks like the path leading up to where the torpedo tubes are, yeah, that's right, because these are the torpedo tubes. All right, I'll let them explain.
I want to see everything.
And then we'll look at the page, because I know the page has
This
like
was
a
the
little
area
diagram.
we just seen. Here is situated the cargo. Here is the part of the elevator, and this one is the medium hangar. This is the setup for the side
The small hangers.
Here there is the conveyor belt you have seen earlier, and just above there is the loading room.
It just
for
seems
the
like an
launching
extra
tubes.
step. Why not just put
From
the
here is
magazine
where you
there?
will take the conveyor belt missiles and load them into the pipes. Here
And
is
then
your
we've got-
favorite room.
So I saw the concept art of this. Now, I like this. Don't get me wrong. I love the callback to like World War II battleships and how those were actually stacked down there in like the magazine beneath the gun. Same with the torpedo room over there. But like, what I feel like without being able to land like a really heavy armor-piercing hit at range and light off that entire magazine, World of Warship style, I feel like this is falling a little bit flat. Oh, G Patton, what's up, dude? Good to see you. That's the real bounty merchant right there. How you been, brother? I'm just I'm basically just doing a react and watch through the SCL from 2 days ago. I haven't actually sat and watched it yet. And I've been meaning to fire up the stream again and just test it out. I'm only streaming to YouTube right now. And this is clearly not set up completely. I don't know what the hell is going on with this chat bot or chat box that I've got here, but we'll figure it out. I just wanted to get it actually turned on and running for a little bit. But yeah, just kind of going through and like watching, critiquing, and getting all the information that they're putting out about this Odin thing. I did not buy it. Not gonna buy it. $5,000 is a little insane, shall we say. But be back when your javelin drops. Yeah. They were talking about that too, and they're talking about how like the guns on this thing are bigger than the javelins. Like, oh my god, they're power creeping and it doesn't even exist yet. Here we go again.
Remember that one?
Continue here, but yeah, I want World of Warship style like magazine hits. Just boom.
Yeah, this one
Rip the
is
thing
the
in half.
actual size of the turret when it's collapsed in itself, and
That's
we have
actually pretty
enough
cool.
space that we could put a gantry.
They showed the
passing on
the expansion of it
outside
earlier, where like
of the
everything
ship,
comes out
but
from
on
like
the
covered
inside
compartments and everything, and that was actually
of
pretty cool.
The turret that effectively looked like this.
And just
Are they gonna put these walkways out there, though? Like-
yeah, we do expect areas like this to exist where
I guess it makes sense, but
when you look at the ship full screen and it's just that kind of silhouette,
Yeah.
you don't see it. But yeah, this
yep,
is,
yep.
Well, the hangar catwalk was the prime example there, right? We looked
So
at
these they were saying earlier, these are size 12 guns, 3 of them. And what we were trying to do earlier was like speculate a little bit as far as like, what do we expect the kind of damage for these things to have? And so that led me to kind of go back and look at like the different sizes of torpedoes and the damage that's associated with them. Your size 9s have 300 to 400K. Your size 10s have 630 to 800. Your size 12s are like 900 to, 1.1 mil. And so like, your 12 is only a little bit of an upgrade over the 10. The 10 is double what the 9 is. And then the guns, it's kind of hard to say like, how is that going to stack up between, a railgun versus a cannon? We're speculating if you look at the difference between, size 1 through 3 railguns versus size 1 through 3 cannons, as the size goes up, there is a much bigger gap, or a gap or a multiplier, I guess you could say, between the damage that the cannon puts out and the damage that the charged railgun shot puts out. So like, it's not really a difference at 1. It's still a couple hundred damage, but it goes up by a couple hundred damage when you go to size 2. Size 3, your railgun does like 3 times the damage of the cannon. So does that continue to scale as you get up into that size 8s, 9s, 10s, 12s? that's what I was kind of trying to like extrapolate. And I don't know, it's hard to say where they're going to go with that because it's all shit that doesn't exist. So, but yeah, that's what we've been doing tonight.
Image, we thought it was the entire room. It was just the catwalk.
Yeah, my favorite.
Oh, that's
scale bit on the
Merkel.
ship
What's
is
up,
the
dude?
little zigzag ladder on the side
Oh,
of
the
conning-
staircase.
on the
Yeah.
side of the conning tower.
All right, let's talk about the conning tower. I mean,
I did not know who I was talking to.
We get to the base. Oh, okay, well, let's be disciplined here. Let's continue into the main hall before we go to the conning tower. What else are we looking at here?
We got my train.
And it's
my
funny you
train.
mentioned 2 degrees a second because we were looking at that as well. If you look at the size of these the size of these ships here, so you got Idris clocking in at about 240 meters length. This is going to be what, 750 or 800, I believe they said. So almost 4 times the size. It stands to reason that your rotation rates go down proportionately. Even if they only went down half, that still makes this thing impossible to aim at anything, which for having a main beam gun on the front, that vastly limits what that thing is actually going to be able to be used for. But yeah, it's there's no way that it comes out and it has anywhere near this speed of rotation, and we know what that speed of rotation is like with the Idris right now. So it's not going to be moving anywhere quick for sure.
Your train.
We have a train system that connects the most important parts of the ship to the most remote manned turrets.
So similar to the
interesting.
The Bengal, realistically, getting around the ship is going to be a huge task. It is an absolutely massive ship. So it has its own tram system, whatever you want to use the
there it is, the tram system
that runs constantly throughout. It's not like the lifts where you press a button, because that's its own thing. Somewhere else where there's the lifts to get up and down, there's multiple of them. But just because of the sheer size, we had to set up something to get you around. So there is multiple trains running in a constant loop so that people can navigate.
So they have to, oh dear. They are not only having to deliver the new transit system right now, but by the time this comes out, the transit system is going to have to work so well that it can work within a moving ship and keep a route of train cars moving in a moving ship. Is that any different than them working in a city that is basically rotating on the surface of the planet? Because the planets they're rotating right now. If you go to Lorville, you have a day and night cycle. So technically it's the same thing happening. And maybe that's part of the complication and the issues that they've had with it is like, maybe that's part of the complication is the fact that like they're doing all of this on a moving platform. Hey, Mike, good to hear from you. Yeah, thank you very much. I have not put any videos out in a while, but I want to get started at least doing some live stuff now again. And I just decided to fire it up tonight, even though it's not fully ready. I've still got some work to do on the layout, getting chat working. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you. But yeah, that's interesting because it's one thing to like have that running on a planet's surface or in a city if it's just, rotating, but like I'm trying to imagine that on a ship that could just change direction at any time. I don't know. That turns into a really complicated problem. Yeah, I know. I foresee no problems at all either, right? It'd be fun if they fix the actual transit system, just treat the spline for the tram as fixed to the ship itself. Yeah. Oh dear.
It'd be like how on Microtech you have like the trains.
Exactly like that. We needed something of that scale.
It has to be all gameplay online in one ship. They made it a ship goal to incorporate all aspects of the game. That's I'm sure. Like but that's also one of the impasses that we're at right now, right? Is that so much of this gameplay doesn't exist. Like, what do we use multi-crew for right now? Nothing. Turrets aren't dangerous. The gimmicks that you would use someone on basically aren't worth spending the people on them if you've got those people free to put in other ships. The only ship that maybe has turrets worth using is the Perseus. Everything else is like, pilot controlled stuff. The Polaris isn't really worth it right now because the missiles are in such a bad state. And I know that this is, getting mired in, this is the game as it is right now. And in the future, we're going to have this. But like at a certain point, you kind of have to start getting there. And if you want people to really believe long term in this multi-crew gameplay, some of this stuff has to start coming online, and some of these systems have to start supporting these other supposed game loops that are supposed to be so important to the operation of these big ships. Because all these big ships right now, Tiburon, Perseus minus the turrets, Idris, like, no one is crewing those. There's no need to. You can maybe get 1 or 2 people on there, and maybe it's useful for something, but like, other than carrying a boarding team to go and board and destruct other Idrises, there's not much reason for us to carry a crew on board an Idris at the moment. So they talk about game loops and including all the different game loops, but like, where are they? There aren't any. And I was going over that with when they were looking at like the little ATC tower, a little, hangar control center, which the Idris has, and they're building, a big one overlooking this entire bay in the Odin. But like, what does ATC gameplay look like? Is there even a plan for that? I haven't heard of it. If anybody's in chat's heard about that, let me know, because I don't know. Never heard of that before, and I don't know what that would look like other than pressing the button to open the hangar, which is more Antares gameplay.
Leaves its path and takes you up, out, and the thing.
I'm hoping, but I don't know what it's going to look like.
We'll get to the escape pods, don't worry.
Let's hope they work. By the time this comes out, transit will be, should be much better.
Oh, I hope, buddy. I hope.
No, there's already tremendous improvements that are in now. All right, let's go back.
Okay.
No, we still got more in the hull here. We still got more in the main hull.
No, in the main hull, I think we're done. There is another room for the underside
Oh,
well.
underside turret. Okay.
There's areas of the ship as well that we're not quite
Another
ready,
magazine I probably
there's
won't be allowed to blow up in one shot.
Engineering.
Yeah,
Engineering, habitations,
Your
the mess area, because obviously it is designed
MC map
to be
room
multi-crew
gameplay,
ship, so
I know.
there's substantial crew quarters and stuff, but obviously the amount of time it took to even assemble what we have so far was substantial.
Weird thing is, like, that one is actually important long term.
No,
Like, you have to have some kind of large scale command and control.
Every inch of the ship, it's enough to get the idea across. It's enough to put the work in motion, because then when it comes time to build it, there's going to be other people who have ideas and inputs and stuff and new.
And see, this is the problem with the concept, with the concept path here, is I haven't yet heard them describe what this ship is for. I have not heard the problem that this ship solves. Right? Maybe they talk about it at some point, but like, the only thing I've come up with is speculation that something this big and this slow with that powerful of a beam on the front is only going to be useful for attacking structures, pretty much, or other Odins that get caught out of position. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what the ship is for yet. I don't know what they're selling it for yet.
New thoughts, new technologies come online and stuff. So the less.
For sure.
There's a benefit to not being super prescriptive in every single aspect of this, because it leaves us.
Yeah, map room gameplay. Sorry, I'll rewind this for a second. I keep talking over him. But yeah, the map room gameplay and like separating roles without making it clunky is super important, because it's. Well, we saw them do this really well in Eve, right? Like, they've got the fleet system in there, and you have a fleet where you can have multiple, like, FCs, wing leaders, squad leaders, people that have rights to, like, invite others into the group and move them around. So, like, it's a more complex structure than just a simple party that you find in most MMOs, which is great. But then I feel like it's got to be even more open-ended in Star Citizen, because you've got people that you could divide it by squads or wings or whatever and just use that as a structure, but like, you're going to have people in very different roles in a way that goes beyond just ship roles in Eve, I feel like. So yeah, if that's what they're actually finally pulling in with that whole supposed map room gameplay, like, we already need that yesterday. We've already had situations where like we could have desperately used that. So I think it's absolutely critical that comes online well before 1.0. We've got to have those social tools. We've got to have the fleet management tools. Especially if they do actually bring some of these other gameplay elements online and it becomes necessary. Not just necessary. I shouldn't even say becomes necessary. I should say that the incentives are in place to promote multi-crew gameplay. That's ultimately what it takes, is there need to be incentives for multi-crew gameplay. And if that comes online, then yeah, we desperately need map room and fleet management.
The freedom later to have better ideas. Yeah. And so like this. So, okay, so now let's go ahead and look into the conning tower here. The kind of a signature element here. I know folks online
That's a signature
are like,
element.
why
What the
would you
fuck?
create such a? Everybody knows where to attack now. Obviously, you attack at the conning tower, right? He goes, well, it looks cool, so that's what armor and shields are for.
It's well protected as well.
Components are elsewhere across the ship as well.
Yep. So what is this? This is
Okay.
So this is the tactical room to study your map, to study your fleet, to collect data.
So this is for when you're fighting in the
And
little
above
donut hole,
is a
like
quiet
cylinder of Levski.
Yeah, it's one of the things
so
that we,
you can track
again, that
the
we tried to kind of
the
like
whole
think about
verticality
when
of
we
the
were making this
engagement.
is
Oh, God.
we wanted
Oh,
to
Jesus.
try and include some areas of the ship that weren't
Gameplay
just
focused.
just combat and functionality. We wanted to have some areas that
I will think about that. I have not
gave the
jumped
crew
on Discord. I actually don't think
some
I've got it locked down
some
right
freedom
now.
to relax.
I might,
so
I might
here's
hit
our
you up
next
on that
image.
at
What are
some
we
point.
looking at?
This is the room where the captain and the higher ups will manage the fleet. So
Kind of
also
command and
thinking about
control.
Yeah, so a lot of ships have hollow globes in a room, and this sort of has many rooms for the hollow globe just because of the size of it.
Very tall.
Very tall.
Okay.
And not to don't want to focus on it too much, but we wanted to have little kind of areas of the ship where if you needed to have more private conversations, you needed to, there was areas that were away from like the main thoroughfare that would allow for kind of planning and discussions and.
Like mute.
Do I need to go into a separate room of my ship to have a private conversation? Can we talk about having voice over IP working before we even say stupid shit like that? It's just that's just a private Discord channel with extra steps. Holy cow. Guys, I don't know what game you guys think we're playing, but news.
Mutinies and stuff like that, and just
I'm not saying plan
Ideally
mutiny.
not.
Yeah, what are you trying to say, Dan?
It's not Drake.
And then inside the big turret. So is this actually the
He has
seat that
been
controls the
chosen!
turret, or-
That goes up into the turret.
So you enter this
why that
room
made me
full of
think of
death,
that.
and then you get in like, and then you
You deliver
get pulled up
deliver
to
the death.
dispense such death.
Correct.
Okay.
That lets you understand what you're about to have at your disposal.
Good old macro
Th- th-
cannons.
This is okay. So the scale of this turret alone. This is the. All right. I ran out of words. All right. What else? What else we got?
we
I
have
mean,
a
that does look
parliament.
cool as fuck, but
Oh, you can ban me.
Of course.
Oh,
we have a
what?
parliament. And what's a parliament?
So I thought that since you're
Are those the
driving
Hurston statues?
destroyers of wars, you should be able to dispense it democratically or not.
wait, hold on. We're gonna rewind. What did he just say?
Of course. We have a parliament. And what's a parliament?
So I thought that since you're driving destroyers of wars, you should be able to dispense it democratically or not. But in some ways, you should be able to communicate your crew what the plan is.
This is the equivalent of our
God.
briefing room, but taken to the next level.
Okay.
It's a bit more lyrical, I guess.
With a ship of this size, it's going to be crewed by a huge group of people. And obviously, people aren't required to be there because at the end of the day, it's a game.
I can't wait to jump one of these things when someone's having their democratic parliament meeting to decide how the ship is going to be used in the upcoming battle. Oh my god.
People having fun. But it gives orgs and groups a location to meet and gather and discuss what they plan.
I think it's safe to say this is an org ship. This
Yeah.
is a ship you leave and you don't come back for a while.
Well, you take your ships to this ship to then go off and play the game.
Okay, and the bridge here.
I mean, I like that
So,
idea.
We got a couple images of the bridge.
We can get log in place going. We might actually get there.
So, front and center, obviously, commanding officer, captain, owner, it's the person in charge. Off to one side, they have their head of security. So, they'll obviously, a ship of this size, someone needs to be in charge of just making sure the inside of the ship is
Take the
running
train
way
to
it's
the
meant to be.
briefing room.
And to the left side, obviously, it's an XO takeover when
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Gergens. I wish I could say it's not going to happen, but it's absolutely going to happen.
The person who owns the ship or commands the ship needs to go off and do something else.
Okay.
In addition to that, there's a cool little feature that we added to the actual commanding officer's dome. Do we have a picture of it?
The video?
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to go to video? Let's go to video.
Yeah, let's go to the video. So if you need to have private, confidential
Oh no!
Just like how in real life you'd have proper meeting rooms for it.
Hold
on. Just like how in real life.
That's it, guys. They finally got me. If I want that thing to actually block voice over IP. You go and it literally does put you in your own private channel. But I think what you really do with this though is you start cheesing FPS. If you get boarded, you have your guys sitting in there defending it, and you just like hit the button randomly to open it and close it. Oh my god, that's so
proper
silly.
meeting rooms for it. The captain has a way to actually generate one themselves on the bridge to have that conversation away from everyone.
Hold on, I'm concerned about this. This looks like a trip
In real
hazard.
life, you'd have proper meeting rooms.
Hold
for
on.
it. The captain has a
okay,
way
it
to
does fold
actually
away.
generate one themselves.
Could
on
have
the
sworn it
bridge to
didn't
have
fold
that
away. Yeah,
conversation.
right there. So it doesn't fold away entirely. That's probably going to be real. It probably absolutely is going to get stuck partway in a position like that. If it blocks voiceover, it'd be hilarious. Yeah. Yes, it would.
Away from everyone. Yeah. So then, well, it's
I'm glad they're laughing about it too.
Like,
like,
asked me to come into his office.
almost felt bad.
So you've literally made the 1960s Get Smart cone of silence.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
And the idea
Jesus.
is you know, if you are captain of this vessel and you need to have a very confidential conversation, but you are in the middle of a battlefield, you need to happen there and then. You need to be able to make that decision, have that conversation, and get on with it.
I mean, it's cute and all,
So
but like,
this
do they not
is for all
understand
the
how
remote
people
turrets.
play video
So
games?
obviously, like I mentioned before, there's a lot of remote turrets on the ship. So there's an entire area. Basically, it's not a bridge per se, but it's a control center for all the different remote turrets across the ship. It needs it. The scale is we can't just shove them in the bridge. They need somewhere dedicated. So they'd have their own priorities and
Okay, so it's a
conversations.
fire control room.
appreciate
That makes
you don't
sense.
make them run to every corner of the ship.
Exactly. Well, we've got a train for that, so they don't need to run.
There's so many opportunities with like a dedicated room like this, like for artists to come up with like new fun ways of like expressing stuff. So like something that jumps out to me is like, you know, if you've got all those people sat down in their remote turrets, like having some kind of just like an indicator light saying
Hold
that
on.
to come up with like.
Hold on. I have questions. What is this little space down here? Oh, come on. Where's my zoom? I can't zoom in any further. Oh, come on. Oh, there we go. Oh, control plus. All right, there we go. What is this little space under the table exactly? Like, is there a little dumbwaiter that comes up? If you get boarded, do you like just tuck and roll and like fall down into that little, that's your little escape hatch? What is happening there? That is a hole. That's a funeral hole. 21 gun salute goes off in the body. They just roll it down there. Roll it down with the flag. Lift the thing. Bonk. I mean, I'm all about some artistic license and all, but like I have to ask some questions.
Like new fun ways of like expressing stuff. So like something that jumps out to me is like, you know, if you've got all those people sat down in their remote turrets, like having some kind of just like an indicator light saying that the seat is occupied, like a little green light above it. So if you're like the boss and you're walking in, you're like overseeing all the remote turrets, you just see green all around. It's like, all right, my crew's ready to go.
You know, guys, I need to turn on the light above my chair so no one knows to sit down on my lap. Or maybe Maybe you turn the green light on and it means you want someone to sit in your lap. Maybe that's exactly what those lights are for. They knew what they were doing.
Go.
Yeah, well, one of the features that needs further development is the communication between the turrets and the command and control and stuff. Like I'm sure somebody saw the command and control room earlier and it's like, well, what's that for? And it's like this. Eventually, someone will be there able to feed targets to all these people and control UI elements for everybody that's in there. And shows like, no, show here. Your guy is over here. You need to look here. You need to go here. It's like, the 4 of you are on this guy. The 4 of you are on this guy. Something like this is essential to something like the Odin.
I guess it depends how you're feeling that day.
Having all of those guys in one area. And then having a command and control that can communicate with them. Now imagine imagine one of the guys goes down or something. Armor piercing round, or the guy forgot to hydrate or something.
Wasn't doing the armor piercing round, taking crew out.
Dies in his chair. Somebody can get out and run to the other turrets. Like no, they're on this side and stuff. The abilities for coordination.
I'm glad we're on the same page, guys.
Odin are just immense. Like I would say. Not even the ability of coordination, the raw necessity of coordination necessary for this ship. I mean, this is not the ship that you buy. Yes, technically, you get in the pilot seat, you can fly this giant spear around the universe.
So let's talk about that. What does that look like?
The full potential of this thing requires just a massive amount of coordination.
Yeah, this is
people.
also how are we gonna deal with
I want to talk about the coordination systems.
So we want to let you achieve the full power and let you
take care, Ben. It's good to see you, man.
All your
Thanks for
combat
stopping
operation and potentially doing so, but just with the crew, because otherwise, yes, you have a pilot-controlled weapon, but what are you gonna do if most of your armament is not gonna be coming to play into a battle, right? So.
And what is the crew of this thing? The expected crew?
The cheat sheet here.
33.
Yeah.
33.
So really is
But that's bare bones.
Yeah, that's
minimum.
Yes.
How many operator turrets was there?
We're talking.
I would
bare
like to
bones,
see a
not
list
even
of that.
working at full efficiency. That's not even saying there's anyone feeding the torpedoes. That's.
I want to see their list of 33 people and where those people are supposed to be. I want to know what they're envisioning with that. And beyond that, what is the plus 33? When you cross over that threshold, where do you start filling people in there? What do they envision for all of these positions? That's what I would love to see.
Just to man the operator seats, that's the sort of numbers you're talking.
I feel like when it comes time to balance a ship like this, that's probably the biggest thing. If you can get 33 people together, if you can coordinate 33 people together, it's like you deserve to just be, the Norse god of everything.
Well, it's like whenever you have a large group of people playing games together, there needs to be someone who is doing a little bit less of the interaction, but managing everyone, actually getting them all to coordinate. It's like anyone that's ever done raid leading in any sort of MMO. That person absolutely isn't outputting the highest DPS in the group, but they're taking a step back and watching everyone
We've literally
while
made
doing
the 40-man raid.
It's so much talk about this, and it's so little talk about how we get there.
It's the 40-man raid experience, but it's you with your org, your friends, going out and having that gameplay for an evening.
And they're not talking about how you get there when it comes to the mechanics of the ship itself, to making the turrets dangerous. I'm sure these turrets by the sheer numbers are going to be dangerous, but I don't know, it's the scale that we're working at now, the scale that we see multi-crew at right now, turrets don't have a place. There's no incentive to spend your manpower manning turrets at the moment. And so this is a great concept and all, but I want to know how we get from here to over there, where suddenly we're going to want to spend all these bodies on that. Why do I want to crew something like the Odin when I could crew 33 solo Idrises? And if they've painted themselves into that corner, how do they get themselves out of it? Because ultimately they're going to have to at some point. If they want all these big ships that are supposed to have crew in all these positions to make them valuable, they've got to get out of this corner they painted themselves into. And I hope they're starting to think about that. But I don't know. Right here, we're just spitballing ideas. It seems like,
and having your cap ships to run.
Yeah, and the best part is also it's like you have different specialities, right? Because you need fighter pilots, then you need turret gunners, then you need engineering, then you need the guys that actually coordinate the entire crew, and probably more than one guy at that point, because it's going to be very difficult. So like,
what does engineering do on this thing?
Skill, like whenever you play MMOs, there's only ever a handful of people that are even willing to do it, and they choose to do it because they enjoy doing it. But it's a very unique set of sub-skills. If anyone who is a raid leader or has ever been in a raid will understand just how
I almost feel like this guy kind of gets
different it is as a way to play the game.
It's like an epitome of sandbox kind of emergent gameplay, really. It's like a role that doesn't necessarily get put in by the game design teams, but it has to exist.
Yeah,
like,
you don't create your character.
Yeah, you don't.
It's like raid leader is your class.
and that's an issue of incentives again. And it's not necessarily about creating a gameplay loop or creating a specific kind of gameplay. Like, there have to be incentives for players to do certain things on the ship. There has to be a reason to go and fight a fire. There has to be a reason to go and change a fuse. Like, that's emergent gameplay, and anybody can go and help with that. But like, if the system doesn't necessitate it, if you never have any fires because you turn your life support off, if the fuse is blowing, never has any impact because all it does is reduce one of your power segments or what have you, like, that stuff is going to be super minimal. No one's going to be a dedicated engineer to do this one thing. There has to be other gameplay, and there have to be other incentives there for those emergent opportunities to coalesce. The problem is every time they talk about making multi-crew good, it's engineering, and they don't gain anything from engineering. They just function like normal with it. That's the problem. That is exactly the problem. And that's I feel like we can fix that in a couple of ways, right? Like, they started with a good idea when they were, and this is going back to the very first alpha test of engineering that they were doing in Arena Commander a couple of years ago, I want to say. When they first did this, you had main systems of the ship connected by these power lines that went through the fuse circuit breakers. And if one of those breakers went down, if the fuse went out, everything on that end had power cut completely. That was a little too heavy-handed because you hit one fuse and all the engines go off. And people knew that if you hit that one fuse, the engines would all go off. So all they would do is get in nice and close, shoot that fuse box, and the engine goes off. And like, I think that there's a middle ground there. I think there's a middle ground where if there's a combination or a sequence of fuses that get hit, certain subsystems can turn off. Not the entire engine system, but maybe a set of thrusters, maybe one of the engine mains. Maybe on the Idris, the main gun goes out, and then you have to go and replace that sequence of fuses to get it back going again. Something like that where it's not catastrophic. You don't lose half the ship's power, but you lose little bits of it that start to add up in a way that's like, whoa, we need to fix that. I can't steer left anymore. I can't fire the main gun anymore. That's significant without being immediately catastrophic. And then fire is the other thing. We need fire to occur whether you have life support on or not. I know we've got this cute idea in our heads of, vent the compartment, the fire will go out. But like, that's not good gameplay. The fire is necessary gameplay. You need to be able to start fires on ships so that there's a reason to have crew on them to fight fires. So, like, they shot themselves in the foot. They created these great systems and then completely gutted them. And now we're stuck with a complete lack of content and lack of gameplay on these systems that took them years to develop. And the systems are sitting there not being used right now. So that's part of the feedback thing I'm working on as well, is like, they have to understand that, like, they have completely neutered all of the work that they did on these awesome systems years going back now. And like, they've completely removed any reason to carry crew on board, because all you have to do is ignore the fuses because they don't matter and vent the compartments so you don't catch fire. So yeah, it's so much multi-crew gameplay could just begin with that. But yeah, I digress there. Let's see. Problem of multi-crew ships being less effective than the equal number of solo ships. Yes, exactly. It's a concept I call manpower economy, where you have X number of players. Where do you spend them? And you have to spend them where it's most effective, or you're not playing to win. And a lot of people don't play to win. You know, whatever. I guess they can do them. I play to win. I'm going to put people where it's most effective to put them. I hate this solo Idris meta. I'm playing it right now because that's what we have to do to win. So, incentives. If you don't set the right ones, you end up with shit gameplay.
What else do we have to look at?
we close with a fire shot of everything opening up.
So yeah, this is a
moment.
That's a pretty cool animation, I have to say.
When you see that, it's time to run.
Well, at that point, you're like,
no. When you see that, it's time to die.
If you're not ready to quantum travel, it's too late.
Yeah. No, it's a.
Just assuming you got that close to look at this.
That is honestly a little impressive. If you go back to what we were saying earlier, where there was a day in Star Citizen where you could only move like one physical item on a ship at a time, like one door or one elevator or whatever, like back in the early days. Seeing something like this with that many moving pieces all moving all at once, that's kind of cool. Despite the problems, that's pretty cool.
It was interesting to see the reaction online when the first teaser image went out. It's the first image went out on social on social in the morning, UK time, and then the first shot of the interior went out in the afternoon, and then the 3D hologram version with the weapon. So it was fun for a nice little 24-hour period to watch the perspective of the ship change. There are some people who absolutely hate this thing, and some people who are like, "This is the most beautiful ship I've ever seen." Those are people with eyes.
Ableist.
Hashtag not biased.
But it is. Let's talk about the inspirations for this thing on the exterior. What are we thinking when we build this?
So we wanted to convey that this was inspired by a battleship. Sadly, in sci-fi, there are other ships inspired by battleships, so we had to differentiate from these ones and not going into the steampunk or World War II aesthetics. We initially tried to group all the guns in the center, like you would do in World War II, like on the USS Iowa, comes to mind, a famous Japanese one that I will not mention. Instead, with the fact that they all have to operate in a video game,
we just modeled
they
it
don't have
straight
the
after,
component,
that's
we
all.
started spreading them, and that aesthetic would no longer be supported. So we decided to look actually at the Zumwalt class, at the literate combat ships from the US, at the Visby class from Sweden, all the more modern stealth ships, and yet retain the conning tower aesthetic that there was in World War II ships and that got lost after then. But we want to hint at that word with a little bit.
The incentives weren't there for it. The gameplay didn't exist for the conning tower anymore.
This has been an amazing look here. Let's go ahead and take a few minutes now at the end here and jump into. Now this is an engine. This you work in what, Blender?
Yes. This is Blender.
They use Blender for this, really?
So we're gonna.
Oh, it's for concept art, I guess. All right, I guess that makes sense.
Some folks have already extracted.
I wonder if they use Blender for actual
the concept
development
mesh from the hologram as they do, but this is the actual legitimate.
Yeah,
one.
and just a note on that hologram mesh. It is a optimized isn't the correct term.
It is a more detailed mesh than I expected it to be.
It is a reduced version.
The first concept image that they put out just looked like somebody took like 3 brush strokes and went, there's your battleship.
Of what we're seeing here, when Alberto kind of handed this over, I mean, this
actually has some detail.
37 million polygons.
37 million polygons. That's
Oh
not
my
something
God.
for a game. So yeah, there was.
And
a
every
lot of,
mob that bought
decisions
this is going to
made
be
kind of
spawning a dozen of
strip
them in
out all
Arena
that
Commander
stuff
at the
to get
same
it
time.
to run above.
I hope y'all are ready
18.
for that.
And also, it was a hologram. It wasn't supposed to be a concept. This is the real deal.
Arena Commander's getting freaking clogged when this comes
let's
out.
get closer
Assuming
and
Arena
take a look.
Commander's even
What do we-
functioning by that point. It seems to be degrading a little bit every patch to the next. So, like, by the time we get to 1.0, I fully expect Arena Commander to just not exist anymore.
I want to look at it at this point. We've
It's
just
so
seen a whole
busted.
bunch of images and and some videos here. But what can we look at here that we would like to get real close?
We haven't looked at the laser beam yet.
Let's look at the laser beam.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's start with the laser beam.
It almost looks small compared to the
When the
rest of the
laser
stuff on
beam
there.
activates, these side pieces that were not in the hologram model will open up, and they are.
Oh, look at
part
him
of the
showing off
laser
his side
beam
piece.
in order to become part of the target. Ideally, they are the radiators of the laser beam itself.
With something so massive, we need justification for why it doesn't just overheat. In addition, it adds a targetable aspect of the actual laser beam, because if you obviously once you start peeling back the defenses, it gives it a nice area to be targeted to try and knock that out. Because I imagine if you're targeting the ship, you're going to want to knock the beam out.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the
okay.
first thing you target? Is that the first thing you take out, the beam?
Well,
I mean, or do you just not get in front of it?
I mean,
Depends what you're in.
Fair. That's fair.
If you're
Are
fearing
they actually
something
going to
small,
talk
just stay
about what
away
this
from
is
the,
for?
from the front.
From the front.
Yeah, I do feel like the first tactic in fighting an Odin is don't be in front of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or behind it, or beside it.
The big gun's above it, the big gun's below it.
Can
you jump
in
into
the same
the
server as it is a
docking
diamond.
collar area and the little.
It's the
Yep.
charge of
Walkways
the
you've got.
100, I think.
Oh, we haven't looked at the staircase.
We can
Forget
walk
who wrote
around
that
it,
now.
right?
Right, so it does have a docking collar.
Yeah, so it's got a docking collar, and then
Interesting.
also there's. It's kind of hard to see, but we added some like exterior kind of like walkways and channels that you could walk through.
I assume that extends out of there.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the sense of
Oh, wow.
scale.
Hang on, who's that?
So when
When Lee
Alright.
was
That's
trying
kinda
to
crazy.
sort the navigation for
That's
the
a little
ship,
crazy.
we didn't want it to be too simplifying. We want people to be able to go onto the actual exterior, but at the same time, we didn't want loads of issues with the grids and the physics issues that we sometimes encounter. So we ended up trenching all of the exterior walkways behind basically behind mesh, but it's graded mesh, so you'll still be exposed to the elements, but you don't have to worry about debris or stray shots hitting you. But it meant that we had this, to be blunt, an entire level's worth of navigation that the designer who primarily did a lot of the layout for the floor Lee.
So you're going to be walking around the exterior of this.
Well, you've got to, because just to maintain some of it, you're going to have to go out and do a lot of the repairs. And there's alternate routes for when the power goes down on the inside, like the staircase on the conning tower. And obviously, it's a full staircase, so you get some sort of idea of just the scale
What
of
kind
it.
of gameplay are they talking about doing repairs
the
on
first
the?
time I saw that, I immediately thought
I mean,
of
I guess if
the
they're
mid
talking about
tower
repairing
in Final
turrets,
Fantasy VII, when you have the choice to either run up the giant staircase or
but
go
like
up the
there's no
lift.
access to that one. I guess you repair that from the inside,
Wow.
like you do the other ones
What else
right
can we
now.
look at?
But again,
To
like
the
they're
endings in
just
the
kind of
back of it.
hand waving and saying,
So-
"Oh, there's gameplay out there. You go outside and have to repair things. What do you have to repair outside? What is the
That
gameplay?
is
Very big.
Right, we'll do
What is the
engines next. What
concept?
are we
This is the
looking at here,
concept,
Alberto?
right?
at the protection for
What is the gameplay concept?
for the bridge.
I feel like they make ship concepts and they don't concept the gameplay out.
That was
Someday,
so
wouldn't it?
cool.
We wouldn't, just even unarmored.
Love a blast shield.
All right, so you've got like the Carrack made by Anvil,
Yeah.
nice little brand carryover here.
Yeah.
So you've got the shielded conning tower. One assumes you don't go blind when you close it.
No.
Okay. And then a little Star Destroyer influence here with the radar globe.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the top of every contemporary ship. So,
Star Destroyer.
Star Destroyer. Oh, okay. Inside here, there is your parliament. So, there's a quite
the
nice
parliament.
call to the circular motif of Anvil.
You got the
I
escape
love that
pods
that's
here
the
as well.
official name
Oh
of
yeah, we
it.
haven't talked about the lifeboats.
Lifeboats.
Yeah,
The lifeboats. A bit more than a typical escape pod.
Yeah.
Just for the sheer
I
volume
see.
of the ship, we couldn't really just have tiny little pods, so that they have entire rafts and they're scattered throughout the entire ship. The ones on the conning tower are the most visible because we didn't want to fully embed them, just because we will have had to increase the size of the conning tower even more.
Right.
So obviously, if somehow someone manages to peel back in millions layers of defense and you need to escape, there's plenty of rafts.
So there are lifeboats in the tower. There are lifeboats in the main hull.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
just below here.
Well,
Yeah.
So so if somebody does manage to take one of these down, and one would assume that those are somewhat pilotable.
Yeah, they have limited control, but they're essentially like tiny little habitable environments.
Let's take a look at the engines. Oh, you want to show the you want to show the underside of the gun? It's cool. Let's see the underside of the gun.
Alberto, would you be able to go into like walk-in mode in Blender and like
Yes.
show the scale of it from the catwalk?
I mean, that does look cool, but like again,
Blender's this
what
really
is the
cool
gameplay?
mode
What
that
is the
allows you
reason to
like,
go under
walk
there?
around. So we can really appreciate how big it is.
I don't think anyone, until they actually get it into game, will ever understand just how big it is. It's absolutely ludicrous. And this is just on the gun. This is just
The walking
the
works better than it
next
does
to the
in game.
This explains why we needed a train.
gun. I mean, yeah.
I feel like that gun is the size of a Carrack.
Is 1/3 of the Polaris, I think,
The gun is 1/3 the length of a Polaris.
or maybe a half.
Polaris is about.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it looks a little
160
bigger than that.
So call it 80 meters.
It's not far off a Carrack in size.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Sorry, engines.
Yeah, let's look at those. Let's look at the engines.
So there are a bunch of engines.
As you would
So
need.
what does
because,
an
that's
engine
the
room
cruiser
actually
element
do?
of this.
It's also partially gameplay. It's so that obviously if there's just one engine, you take it out, but it means that you have multiple that you have to disable to try and stop the ship moving. Because that would be a good tactic if you want to try and actually disable one of these.
Right.
First of all, immobilize it, then you can gradually work on individual areas to try and get into whatever state you want, whether it be destroying or boarding.
Can we go inside the main hangar there?
I have to open
We
another
kind of
file.
have that, but
Open
like,
another file? Okay.
But just to point out
It's
the
lackluster at
engines,
the
we
moment,
have
for
this
sure.
one, obviously the central one and the side ones, but there are also on these little winglets on the bottom and on the conning tower.
There's an engine on the conning tower?
Little ones to avoid, the tower to be dragged away by inertia. To distribute better these forces.
Amazing. Amazing.
okay.
Okay, let me find the other.
I thought you were going to tell me the conning tower detached.
No.
It's actually a parasite. And
No.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Slap the direct command
that
module on it.
reaction
Let's separate
means
the
he
saucer
thought about it.
section.
That reaction means it came up at
Jesus.
some point.
We had that conversation maybe about a different ship earlier today.
How interested are you in public transport when it's about battleship?
Need a rail card when you board this ship.
It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stops.
6 stops.
Okay.
Wait,
Six
the
stops
The
on the
tram
little
has
tram,
6
really?
stops?
Yeah.
What are the 6 stops of the tram?
So you have obviously your 2 foyer entrances for the docking collars.
Obviously.
You have your very front man turret.
Okay.
You have the underside man turret.
Okay.
And then you have the 2 man turrets at the back. And they also put you next to the main elevator.
Okay, so it's all main turret
thoroughfare.
access pretty
Yeah,
much.
and that's before you've done all the habitation
I was
and
going to
stuff
say,
like that.
I think
so
we might have
that's
more, to
6
be honest,
stops.
mate.
You reckon?
I'm not
That's
convinced
6
it's going
stops
to
So
right
the big
now.
turrets are going to be like
But-
kind
well,
of
yeah.
like intersections. For a bunch of other
Mattia had to
spaces.
go. He had to catch a train. We've been here for a while. If you ever notice, this is the longest BTS we've ever, or anything on a single ship we've ever done. So he unfortunately had a train to catch. Not this one, a real one. But so now we're going to jump inside the hangar area. Where are we?
This is the lift that you can see here, this opening on the left.
Yeah, so the right's your
right.
cargo hold. So directly behind is the 6000 SCU.
Oh, okay. I
That
didn't
is
catch that
the,
before. I didn't catch that
lift
was
that connects
actually
to the medium hangar.
elevator.
And
There's
that's
a word for
2000
that.
SCU.
There's a word for that kind of elevator. I forget what it is.
To the left,
Oh, no.
right-hand side, are the catwalks that take you to the small hangars. So if we just spin round. Oh,
I felt out. Sorry.
All right. How many?
Well, at least they're running into the same problems
here.
here as we do in the
at
game.
least 3.
All of them.
Okay,
so
that's Metro
directly
and then
behind-
sold the
So
torpedoes.
there's
Okay.
the metro stop for the actual trains. So that's obviously it's mirrored on
upper
both sides of the hangar because it might be quicker to get the train round. We're not 100% sure yet.
Wait,
Oh,
the
interesting.
hangar
They
is
have a
so
little,
big that
like,
it might-
elevator on
the
each one of these
tram runs
spaces?
Around
Each one of
the
these
hangar.
hangars?
It might technically be faster to take the train.
that an
around
elevator at the
than it
edge
is
of
to
each
walk
one?
From one end to the other.
It depends how many stops we end up with. At the minute, we're looking at about 6, but
I feel like
more
that's not
might be
fully
added
fleshed
as
out
we
yet.
Evolve the other spaces inside of it.
Seems like
One
something's
of the
maybe
main
missing
stops
there.
is also the center of the conning tower, so you would have the elevator to bring you to.
I thought that
most
was
of
just
the living
like
room.
this straight up
Spaces.
Oh, when you get to the center of the conning
deck
tower,
right here. I thought they just
elevator.
went into the hangar.
Elevators.
Elevator.
Yeah,
Multiple.
a
But
bunch.
I didn't realize the hangar
Yeah,
was like
because of the fact
half
that
a level down. That's kind
obviously,
of weird.
when there's only one elevator,
I don't know why they did that.
We've already had it on the Idris where people are waiting.
I thought this was already the most deadly ship ever designed, but now with multiple elevators,
Oh yeah.
I can safely say the most deadliest ship ever designed.
My God.
Do you go back to where the smaller hangars were? Sorry about that.
Remember that these are concept mesh, folks, so none of these are textured, materialed.
So this is the metric small hangar and what we were talking about earlier. Where
Yeah,
just
right.
behind
Well,
that
like,
you've
where's
got
your
this
access?
additional
I have to
space
assume that's just.
to kind of,
Oh, they got a little space there for like an
sort of
elevator,
off here.
a little mini
There's your
elevator.
kind of like ready area.
That's interesting.
You've got the like the blast shields that would rotate up when vehicles need to move around within that space.
There's also it's for the actual flight crew to do resupply and changeover. So if you decide you want to swap for ballistics instead of energy or vice versa. You can take them off the cargo bridge, bring them down so they're ready to swap out on the ships as they come in to restock. So if it's not just rearming but actually changing loadouts,
Yeah, I
you've got plenty
definitely
of
want to
space for
load
the
up
crew
a
to
whole
get
ship
ready
of
for
those
the-
by hand.
Imagine like a pit from a Formula One.
Or just stack more ships, which is what
Most people
most
do,
people are
yeah.
going to do.
Which is we were very conscious of.
Have we at any point tried to work out how many pitballs we could fit in this?
I'm sure there'll be a Reddit post. Run the numbers, guys.
If there's not a Reddit post by the end of the day, I'll be very disappointed that no one's done the math.
That is.
I await your link.
I mean, that is crazy when you think about how many Furies, how many pit bulls you could conceivably put into this. Yeah.
This is the scale.
And they just
of our
cut this
game
back to
in one
10
shot.
recently, didn't they? It was 20 originally, because remember you could put 20 vehicles of some kind or 20 ships of some kind into the Idris, and that was like the hard limit. And then this patch came out, and the last thing I heard was they actually dialed that back to 10. So they were clearly, whether it was performance or some other kind of like stability issue, they dialed that back for some reason. So that kind of, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where that goes as they develop this a little further and we end up with more ships where you can actually carry things functionally and there's a reason for them to be there.
Right. So yeah, you think about do you remember the old Peopled Planet video we did? This is like the ship's team's nod.
Yeah.
Back to that.
Well, how big was Port Olisar?
It was a couple of K, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
Of the
sorry.
actual space, that not just the,
Oh, no.
the
Yeah.
actual.
The actual habitable space.
yeah,
in
yeah.
Port Olisar.
I would suspect
much less
this is
than that.
probably bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. This is
Port
actually
Olisar
more habitable
was
space than Port
3.94
Olisar.
kilometers from end to end.
Well, okay. Anything more? Anything before we leave? We've shown. Don't give me that look. Alberto's like, I've got so much more to show. You can show two more things, Alberto. What do you want to show?
I've shown everything, to be fair.
Show them, Bram.
What's your favourite image?
What's your favorite aspect of the ship, Alberto?
My favorite image, that's a good question.
I'm not going to judge you.
It's the Parliament.
Wait.
Your favorite's the Parliament.
Wait.
Oh no.
Oh, I know why it's
Oh.
the Parliament.
Oh,
Oh, I know exactly
there
why
he
it's
is.
the Parliament.
Oh,
there he is.
there you go.
That's why it's his favourite image.
Yep.
Oh, is there a puppy in there?
Hidden your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
He
comes
doesn't
back to
come with
that.
every
Can't hate
just
on
to be
that.
clear.
Not yet.
Comes with everything else.
I was gonna say. It comes back. So of course, the Odin for this first promotion that's launched today. 5 unique paints that are exclusive to this promotion.
Yep.
So if you manage to pick up an Odin as part of the Odin Founders Club during this promotion at DefenseCon 2956, those 5 paints come with it, free of charge. They will never be made available in any other promotion. It's our way of saying thank you for being there and supporting this massive undertaking from the get-go. Any last words anybody wants to say about the Odin other than it's really, really big and it's going to take a lot of people to run it?
And make it.
Yeah,
Please
make
do.
it.
Please make it take a lot of
A
people
lot
to
of
run
people
it.
make it too.
I think over the development and like when we took a peer behind the curtain at, like or walked over to Alberto's desk, like there is this like sense amongst the team that this is going to be something pretty immense and seismic, literally. I'm looking forward to seeing which team creates it and how, because we're going to have to like do a lot. I think Ben made a good point where he was like, our teams like from in the last like few years has been, it's so much like larger and it's so much more educated that it feels like we're in a position where we can tackle these problems now and we can really start to, we always try and push the envelope but really see like what can we actually really do.
I can promise you, hand on heart, Dan, that the Odin is going to generate more than we could have ever imagined.
Are you talking about money or what?
Problems, Jared, problems.
Problems.
Wake up the Anvil team.
I hope that they're able to create a problem that this addresses. Like I still don't know what this ship is for. They're concepting out a ship, concepting out all these ideas for it, and saying nothing about what you'll do with it.
John, what do you think you've been doing the last few years?
Saying nothing about how we get to a multi-crew state where 33 people will stay on this thing and actually
And I don't have to care about the part.
You still got
Find something to
a lot
do.
more to do. There's still plenty of
Yeah, we
areas
got the two concept cheat sheet.
left to do. So we've got. Oh, you do have a cheat. So we've seen the hold, the torpedo launching room, the ammo rooms for the size 12, the map room, the contemplation room.
Contemplation.
Lost
Sounds
the
like calling it.
contemplate. The turret's control room, the conference hall, and the bridge. We have unfinished concepts, things that we're not showing you right now for the hospital,
Yep.
for the morgue,
Yep.
for the engineering that we mentioned, habitations, and the executive briefing room. So those are all
Morgue.
in progress right now. They're not quite
Freaking morgue. Death of a Spaceman Tier 0. They're finally going to bring it back. Jesus Christ.
ready to show. Things still left to concept.
Subject to change.
Subject to change. Work's not done yet. Navigation
started yet.
engineering. How is that different than? Oh, the second. There's the engine engineering, then there's navigation engineering. Okay. The train stations themselves, the executive quarters, an armory, additional crew quarters, the self-sustaining
Cantina?
cantina. What?
Question mark?
Look
is
at
the
that is pretty
self-sustaining
like
cantina?
copy and
What
paste
do you mean
though. Like they've
self-sustaining?
got the
What does that mean?
they've got the design for a lot
there
of
a
that in some
farm? What was
existing
your
ships,
idea?
right?
Me.
What? Are you on
Look
about
at the
glory?
Carrick. I don't.
And I loved it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
Subject to
not.
change.
Subject to change.
Subject to change.
Mixmaster.
I don't remember writing it, but I'll
Mixmaster lives.
So it absolutely will have a mess hall. It may not have a self-sustaining mess hall.
Yeah.
Basically, we wanted a
Greenhouse.
greenhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, a
Grow
greenhouse.
space.
Interesting.
A
It
gym.
will have a kitchen.
A gym. A rec room. A panic room.
Question mark. I don't know.
That's next to the contemplation room.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing,
That's
but one's
cute.
on fire.
Yeah.
Turn right contemplation.
It's just a button that changes the effect in the room.
A crafting room, because obviously on a ship this size, it's gonna a crafting room, and then a running track. Well, that's just the exterior, man. You just run around the entire exterior.
No, that's a marathon.
There is a path in the train tracks
yeah.
that will allow you to run all of it in case running
You
is
just
your
got to run the same
Is your
speed as
favorite
the
thing?
trains go in. Otherwise, you're in
I wonder
trouble.
how they're
one would
going
assume that through
play that
engineering,
with the whole
if you're really fighting for
life
power,
support
you
and life
could
support
draw
design
power away.
thing.
The tram stops
That's-
working. You need that power somewhere else, and you still need to be able
That kind
to
of
get around
becomes
on foot.
insane when you're dealing with
So,
that size.
right. And that's
of a ship.
who knows what we're going to add between.
I mean, that doesn't cover stuff like the multiple lifts or
Or how many
Shouldn't
100
be
bathrooms we're going
How many mavs it's got?
Oh yeah,
how
how many
taps?
bathrooms?
Two.
Just two
and
taps.
one-
Two on the entire
It's got
ship.
2 taps every bathroom.
750 meters away from
That's a
each other.
promise.
It's a promise.
Taps in every bathroom.
That's the 2-tap promise.
So that's a lot about the Anvil Odin, Star Citizen's final concept ship and its largest. Available right now on robertspaceindustries.com exclusively to members of the Odin's Founders Club. Those are folks who took the time and effort to submit their stories about why coordination and cooperation was so important to them in the Star Citizen experience. It's a big, I think it's a hallmark. Star Citizen is replete with a number of hallmark moments. At 4.8, the launch of tactical strike groups and the biggest step towards coordinated ship-bound gameplay and combat that we've had, and then of course this. Putting
We
a
have some
nice
very
little
different
marker
definitions of hallmark,
in the
my
ground
friend.
for the future and being like, this is where we're going. And the
Very
kind of
different
gameplay that
definitions.
this creates and the kind of gameplay necessary to deal with it and stuff. It's a clear calling our shot to the evolution of space ship and space combat gameplay in the future. So it's an exciting thing to work towards. John?
Damn it.
It's been a long day, Anna.
We've been what you need is Alberto sat next to you again.
I was going to say, where's Alberto?
Alberto, where you needed
In
you.
my head, it just said, I call him Young Squire for some unknown reason. That's all my head was giving me. My head was giving me a Young Squire. Dan, Chris, Mattia, who had to take off, Mark, Ben, Alberto, our friends on the cameras. Here, we don't usually have cameras, but we wanted to have so many people here. You can't see them, but they're here. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, I'm sure you're paid, but
I want to let
thank
this
you
run
anyway.
through to the end.
And of course, Seb, Lauren, Dave, Pete, behind the scenes, our big show this week. Thank you for watching. Hope you're having a lovely Defense Con. I hope you were able to get everything that you wanted. Remember, the finale comes after this, where most of the ships, I think actually all the ships that have been available on the various days, all come back. So you still got another chance at Kraken, still got another chance at Idrises, at Javelins, and of course the Odin Waves right now for those in the Founders Club. So thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting Star Citizen all these years. We've still got a lot coming the rest of this year, and if I already look at the ship schedule for 2027 already, there's a lot more spaceships to come. So thanks for watching.
Now?
Bye, everybody.
Do we have I forget where to find that, honestly. I know that there's like a schedule that they put out that shows what ships are in progress and all that. I forget where to get it, honestly. If anybody knows, let me know. I'll pull it up. But yeah, I wanted to at least get through that entire thing and say that I saw it. So yeah, I mean, it's another concept, and I'm glad it's the last one. This is a habit they needed to get out of a long time ago, and it was nice that they, previous year went the entire year without putting any concepts out. They were just finishing ships, releasing them straight to game. That was a good change. I can give them this one. I know that they're like probably needing some kind of final push funding wise, and this definitely filled that. If you've seen the funding numbers from this, I saw it. I don't know exactly where off the top of my head to pull it up from, but it was absolutely phenomenal. Like they funded, I don't know if it was almost double of what it was last year for this month. It was something crazy. So, and like that's well and good, and I'm glad it's getting funded, but we're still sitting here struggling with a lot of the same problems that we've been struggling with for a while. And it's, in some ways, it's actually gotten worse because we've ended up, roughly a year and a half ago, first capital ship comes out. We've got the Polaris. That presented its own challenges. We started finding ways to work around that. The Idris comes out, and then bam, we've got another, a new single pilot controlled death machine. And it's one of those things where, again, the manpower economy, it's not demanding the crew that it says it demands. The incentives aren't there for it. The positions and their necessity, their importance is not there. So like there's no reason to grab 8 people, 12 people, and fill all these stations on board an Idris with them when the entire point of it is the stupid spinal mount that's player controlled or pilot controlled and not beholden to any kind of limitations that require any other crew members to intervene. I know that we don't want gameplay where a crew member is just going in and pushing a button or fixing one fuse and that's it. Obviously we don't want something that simplistic, but there needs to be something to dial that back from it just being a single pilot ship. And the fact that they sit there and joke about it, like, yeah, okay, I guess we can call that self-awareness maybe, but like if you're gonna joke about it, at least give us some sign that you're doing something about it. If you could acknowledge that it's a problem, and they kind of joke about it always stopping short of acknowledging that it's a problem. That kind of bothers me. But like if you're going to do that, at least tell us like what's on the roadmap to get this resolved and to make those ships live up to what their advertisement essentially was, which is you need a squad of friends to man this thing. So, I don't know. There's good ideas out there for how to address this. We're putting some of that together into some feedback. If you join the discord.gg/ShadowMoses Discord, there's several channels in there. Capital Warfare Feedback is a big one of them. We're talking in there quite a bit about where the Polaris, where the Idris fit into things right now, and what needs to happen to really get those into a place where they can be enjoyable. And where these other ships can kind of come in and be part of the picture too. So, anyway, I'm going to call it there for tonight. I'm going to try and get this going at least weekly. Probably won't always do reacts. I want to get some gameplay in, but I saw earlier, just as I was starting the stream, actually, stuff was going really freaking wonky on the servers. I was not about to go in and try and play. So we'll try that maybe next week and see what happens. Thanks for joining. I will see you next time.